Cheated on years ago, story with vengeance. Long post. Back in 2014, I was dating the lady I hope would be my wife, the only woman I have ever genuinely loved before or since. I was 25 years old at the time. It was a 2-year partnership. I had never really popped the question, but the relationship seemed to be on a very good long-term track. I thought we were in love, that our families adored one another, and that our relationship was generally flawless, no fights at all, great personality meshing between us. We looked fantastic together, had a terrific relationship, and her family adored me as the son they never had. She felt the same way about my family, and everything looked ideal. On Memorial Day, we go to a party with friends and then return to my house, where she sets her alarm and then goes to sleep. However, after she goes to sleep, I see her phone continually going off, so I take it up and examine. There are texts from this man. One of those, he is just a buddy sorts, with nasty descriptions for what he plans to do to her this weekend when she meets him, including references in the past tense, signifying a long-term relationship. Needless to say, I woke her up and said, "Time to go," and kicked her out. Fast forward 3 days, and I've spent my time wallowing in grief and heartbreak. This day in particular, I find myself second-guessing myself, wondering, did I act too quickly? What are the chances I was wrong? I ask her over the phone, and she agrees to see me at my house after she finishes work. During this time, I confronted the man with whom she was engaged directly through Facebook and SMS. After some probing, he emails me a nude photo of her he took. They became together the day after I broke up with her, she told me. You can imagine how this might affect someone who has been cheated on. Then it occurred to me. Vengeance that will linger and remind her of her actions for a long time. She is white, with blonde hair and blue eyes, as is the rest of her family who were, to be honest, rather prejudiced. The guy she was having an affair with behind my back, in their house, no less, was African American. To emphasize my point, I decided to end my brief love affair. While my ex is heading over to my house to chat about our relationship, I contact her mother and tell her what I know about this gentleman and her clandestine, continuous romance in their home while they are out of town. When my ex arrives, we have a long conversation in which she does this half-crying thing and tries to justify her behavior by blaming it on previous traumas, including using the recent death of a cousin as an excuse, and claiming that her up with this guy the day of the breakup was just a harmless hangout situation. Of course, I show her the naked picture he gave me and make it clear that I am aware of all that has been going on recently. Mostly because her boyfriend, guy, wouldn't shut up when I talked to him. As the talk concludes and she walks out the door, I inform her she has a prize waiting for her at home. She eventually gets the deer in the headlights expression and asks, "What do you mean?" I just tell her that her parents are well versed in all aspects of her life. She then erupts in fits of laughter, swinging at me. Then I saw genuine anguish and tears from her, when the earlier emotions were only crocodile tears. As she rushes away, she declares, "I shall despise you till the day I die." For the record, I still have no clue what happened to her family, and I haven't talked to her since the split. I know she wasn't disowned, but I have a sense that hurt their relationship a lot. Years later, I find out they married and had a child while she was cheating on him as well, resulting in a horrible divorce in which she ended up in prison for spousal abuse. This was one of the most formative experiences of my adolescence, teaching me a lot about myself as well as the motives of others. Most folks I know believe I escaped this one unscathed. A funny side note, 3 years later, I am still working for a local security business, and have been for quite some time. Guess who enters through the door dressed in our uniform? My ex-boyfriend, new employee. Most people who know about it believe she was stalking me, though I did not talk to her or communicate with her in any way. So maybe that is incorrect. If not, what is? The universe has a wicked sense of humor. Story 2. I've 23 male. Been with my wife, 23 female, for 5 years, and am having trouble getting over her cheating on me. I apologize for the wall of words. This has been bothering me for a long time, and I appreciate anybody who takes the time to read my narrative. So far, I've only told one person about this, and now I've chosen to seek guidance on a forum where I can, hopefully, remain anonymous. My wife and I married while we were both in our senior years of high school, and everything were going well until last year. We had some difficult moments while I was jobless for a brief period, but now I earn enough money to support us, and we live in a tiny house where we are much happy. Last summer, she was behaving strangely towards me, and I couldn't figure out why, so I checked her phone for images and text messages but couldn't find anything. When she claimed she was going to work, I drove over there to make sure, and she was there, so I thought I was insane. I decided to check her Skype since she's constantly on it, and lo and behold, my suspicions were right. I discovered filthy messages, the most recent of which was about her touching herself to this random online user. I blew it. I glanced through the notes and images for a few moments before breaking down. I instructed her not to come home that night when she phoned. I made it quite apparent that I was not in a mental position to cope with her presence in our home. I've never felt anything like that. Everything in my life suddenly fell apart. She meets the person she's chatting to via an online game she plays. I play the same game, and only a few days before I checked the Skype discussion, I was urged to kill myself by a random person, who turned out to be him, which made it sort of obvious that I needed to check her online interactions. She terminated the discussions with him about a week before I discovered it. That night, I chatted to my closest buddy and told him everything that had happened as well as I could. I took the Skype logs and saved them on a USB so that I could use them as proof if I chose to divorce her, and I told my father-in-law that I needed some time away to get into a mental condition where I could deal with her. She kept calling and texting me, leaving me voicemails, sobbing and apologizing, and her father said she needed new clothing, so they came over and he spoke to me and told me he loved me and that I should speak to her. I had class the following day since I'm in college, so I went to school and told her she could come over after class, which in hindsight, I think was a bad idea and should have gave it a few days of thought. She apologizes, addresses any concerns I have about what occurred, and asks if I can forgive her. Remember, I haven't been single since I was 16 years old, and I have no clue how to live without her, so I promised her she could come back and work on her forgiveness, and I set certain ground conditions for her return, such as allowing me to see texts, Skype messages, etc., at any time. She agreed and has honored everything since then, but when I shut my eyes at night, I can still hear the dialogue. We hadn't even been separated for 24 hours before I wanted to see her again and simply be with her. Even before everything occurred, I was really insecure. I wanted to read what she said about me since I never listened to the whole chat. Tonight, I reviewed the logs in the hopes that it would help me move on, but it just made me feel the same way I felt when I found out, and makes me feel like I can't trust her anymore. Without this occurring, this year has been tough for us, and I've already considered living on my own. We are now living paycheck to paycheck since I'm not working full-time and I'm attending school. I've never known what it's like to be a bachelor. I've only ever been in a relationship with one lady who completely devastated my universe. Prior to this occurrence, I considered moving back in with my mother while I am still in school so that I may put money into a savings account without having to worry about taking care of a home, utilities, insurance, and the like. It seems selfish and probably even an excuse for my situation right now. I often tell myself, if you lived alone, you could spend more time with your friends, work out more, and eat healthier since your family would cook. It's partly true, but I could accomplish those things on my own as well. I simply never commit to completing them and instead spend my time playing video games. I want to know what it's like to be a college student living with their parents. I've been partying with my buddies till I can't remember what happened the night before, meeting new females, and concentrating on what makes me happy. I'm having trouble with school right now because of job and our relationship difficulties. I'm likewise having trouble deciding what I want to do with my life. It's as if I'm carrying the weight of the planet on my shoulders, but every time I consider leaving my wife, I am overcome with sadness. I still adore her. In fact, I adore her. Is this one of those "the grass is always greener on the other side" situations? Is there anybody who has been in a scenario similar to this and is ready to discuss the result of their decisions?